spearheads of armed might to divide, surround, destroy all opposition. That's all there was to it.
In this special episode of Lineage, we remember the people who lived through the Blitz. The ordinary people who, through living their lives, contributed in their own way to the war effort. While working on a case, Fraser and Fraser make a discovery. A diary that details the life of an ordinary woman, living through extraordinary times. The war is still in living memory. So my name's Ben Cornish and I'm one of the case managers here at Fraser and Fraser. The interesting thing about my role is that I get to delve into social history, I get to look at amazing old documents, and I get to see how people lived through the generations and where they ended up. The case of Myrta Marden came across my desk and we soon realised that she died a few years prior. She died in 2019 and we realised that it hadn't been administered her estate, and it's not unusual because cases can fall through the cracks. So we believe that Myrta's estate is approximately $465,000. She owned home property and she had other assets. The estate needs to be administered because properties can fall into disrepair and assets may go missing. So one of the first things we do when we get a case is we look at the last known address. I look at their birth records, whether they've been married, whether they've had children, and try and pan out who their parents are. And once we locate that initial information, it's passed over to the research team.
The case looked promising because there appeared to be siblings and marriages. So I'm Isha and I'm the research manager at Fraser and Fraser. So I lead the team of researchers and also do research myself. This case in particular was sent to me from Ben. So I took a look into it and all we knew really is her name, her date of birth, her date of death, and that she owned her property in Edmonton. We then found out that her parents had married in Hampstead and both died in Enfield. We found from there that she had a brother called Raymond, who was born in 1930. So initially I thought, okay, this is going to be a near kin case. And then obviously figured out that he died bachelor in 2004. And then it came about that actually she had a half brother that I found on a 1939 census when I was looking at her mother. I saw that she had an illegitimate child. So from there, I thought, okay, then we still have near kin, but it'll be half-blood near kin. Found a marriage for him, but unfortunately for me, had no children. So then we had to go back to cousins. So from there, we looked into both of the parents, Marion and Frank, and found that they had lots of siblings. So we started looking into that.
So when we looked into the beneficiaries, we've identified 22 in total. They are cousins, cousins once removed, cousins twice removed, and we have people that live in Australia, we have people that live in the States, and we have people that lived in France. So we've got an international family. Having looked through the records for Myrta's mother, we discovered that her mother was called Marion and that she'd had a child illegitimately. Yeah, for Marion to have a child out of wedlock in the 1920s would have been socially frowned upon. It wasn't the thing to do, and you can tell by where she went that she'd obviously gone outside of where she lived to have the child. So she was from Daventry in Northampton and moved all the way down to Brighton to have Albert. We discovered on the 1921 census that she was living in Brighton at 21 Seaford Road, and that's specifically for unmarried mothers with children. So being an unmarried mother in the 1920s would have been difficult, so this was a place where she could go, she would be safe, she could learn skills to be a mother, and eventually she'd be able to move out and live her life with a child. When doing further research into Myrta's mother, we discovered something which was pretty astonishing. We did some digging and we discovered a diary.
Ben told me about the diary and I was immediately intrigued. So it's very interesting to hear that Marion kept a diary. Normally we will hear family stories from heirs and different things that they've been told as children, but we never really hear it from the person, as it were. So to find something that went on for a time that's so prominent in history, is actually very interesting to see firsthand what it was like written down.
So a diary written during the war is really significant because it's a first-hand account of someone's experience. We usually hear of great battles, of leaders and major battles in World War II, but this is actually someone on the home front experiencing war firsthand.
Diaries offer a unique perspective into the war. My name is Val and I run the site called Addicted to Diaries. I came across Marion's diary a couple of years ago and I thought, this is great, another woman diarist, and she's writing about the war. Her style of writing is very colloquial, so she comes across as just a straightforward sort of lady who's just getting on with it and reporting it as it's happened. Almost as though a neighbour's popped in and she's saying, oh, this is what I did. Oh, hang on a minute, I've just got to break off and do something else now.
2nd of January 1944. Had to get up as usual and make my own early cup of tea. Myrta bought me some cigarettes, the good kind. Mrs. Burr gave me some cooked roe for breakfast. We had eggs as well. Not heard from Albert yet. I hope he is well. The children are full of vim. We lost 28 planes with men. I wish this war was over. I saw 6 planes nearly touching the top of houses. Frank has a very bad cold. Did my washing.
So Marion, living in northeast London, she would have experienced the horrors of the Blitz. She would have seen the devastation from bombs. She would have seen the fires from incendiary devices. And in the distance, she would have seen Docklands burning. So she would have been right in the midst of it. She mentions an event that happened on the 15th of March. There was a bombing at a dance hall in Palmer's Green and also a bus outside. And it was one of the worst bombings in the area.
15th of March 1941. Saturday, Albert went back to camp. Frank off to work. I got on with mine, so we had dinner and Frank went over the garden and Myrta, Raymond and I stayed home. Did not feel like going, so had tea ready for when they came in. Raid, gunfire very bad, a lot of damage done and people killed. Terrible. Dance hall caught it in Palmer's Green. We went to bed 12 o'clock. Crowd on bus got killed, bus no more.
So we did some research into that bombing incident and unfortunately 2 people passed away in the dance hall and 41 people passed away in the passing bus. She was only just over a mile away. She may have known people involved in it.
Raising a family is hard enough, but raising a family during the war must have been significantly harder and incredibly stressful.
I'm particularly drawn to diaries by women. She comes across very much as a strong, capable woman. I'd say she's quite remarkable in her resilience. She is able to make the most of the situation she finds herself in.
13th of February 1941. The usual start of the morning. Children off to school. I'm forever washing up. I shall be very glad when this war is over. The children played in the garden this afternoon and I got on with the lovely washing up. Frank bought sausages for supper. They were very nice. A change from having nothing at all. Listened to the wireless and off to bed early. We had a raid at 8:15. The guns were firing before the warning went. I must say, it made us jump because we was not expecting it. Lovely day.
It's important to remember these people because it's the social history of a nation, essentially. You're looking into people's experiences and it brings all the histories together, so the official narratives and people's experience, and it's an important resource for future generations. Looking at Marion's diary, it brings home the everyday sacrifices that she made and everyone made in order to fight the war. It shows what ordinary life was like at the time and how major historical events are juxtaposed with the modality of everyday life. The unique thing about this case was that we had a diary. We don't usually have diaries that we find, especially diaries written during World War II. You know, the experience that she's had, the major events of the war, you know, Rudolf Hess is mentioned in there. It's just an incredible resource.
Well, it's very important to have documents like diaries, and it's very insightful for us to actually, instead of seeing things dramatised and what we're used to seeing about it, seeing what really was happening and real people living through it. And I think it's very important to know what was actually happening at the time and what people were going through.
And the diaries have been a wonderful way of travelling in time now, because you can really immerse yourself in days gone by and put yourself into the writer's thoughts.
So the experience of working on this case was fantastic because I previously studied at university people's experience during World War II, how the state tried to manage people's emotions and feelings, and to actually have someone's first-hand account of actually living through the Blitz and what she experienced was an amazing resource for future generations and very interesting to read.
January 18th, 1941. It's snowing fast and laying thick. Still snowing, and we have finished tea, washed up, finished Myrta's coat and hat, listened to the radio. That is if the siren does not go and the children behave. Oh well, might as well have a cup of tea and off to bed. With God's help, we shall rest in peace.